welcome to the Lounge Room Chat on Wednesday afternoon. It's Linda Emslie from Lovlali, and I'm continuing my conversation this week on how to detox your corporate career. And it is my absolute pleasure to not only be talking to Kristy from Everlasting Health NT about adrenal fatigue, but to also be a part of a really exciting online event that has been organised by Adair Palmer and Ray Fenstrom, which is an online expo for psychic and wellness businesses based in South Australia. So even though I'm in the Northern Territory and Kristy is in the Northern Territory, because my broadcast is scheduled at the starting point for this particular thing, I've been included in the program and I'm so grateful. So thank you, Adair, and thank you, Roy, for including our program. So I am talking to the beautiful Kristy Hollis today about adrenal fatigue. And as a naturopath, Kristy sees this commonly in her clinic. She's also walked down the same road herself, so she understands from experience what people are going through, and she really feels that she can help her clients overcome adrenal fatigue. So her story is that, when she was studying her final year of naturopathy, which was over 15 years ago, she struggled with fatigue and controlling stress. She ached all over, and all of these other symptoms that she didn't realize were related also started to show up. So she went to see a reputable naturopath. It's hard to make an honest judgment on your own health, Kristy says. She needed someone else to tell her what to do for a change. So Kristy's naturopath helped her get back on track. Now Kristy's returning that favour and paying it forward by supporting women's health in every way she can. And Kristy says, we do seem to be the glue that holds it all together. So she's very passionate about making sure that glue sticks for us as well. So I'd like to welcome Kristy in to the lounge room properly so that we can actually start our conversation about adrenal fatigue. Okay, and I've just received a message that she's dropped out of the lobby, so we're just waiting for Kristy to come back in.
I thought I'd just pop in. Hello, Linda.
Hello, Adair. Thank you for popping in.
We just seem to be ending up together live quite a bit. Kristy was here in the lobby section, and then she's dropped out, so I'm not quite sure what's happening. But I did think I would let you know. I've been in contact with her and I've asked her to click the link again, and I can see that we're live, all good, but we're just waiting for Kristy to pop in to the lobby section. So she may be having technical difficulties, and I know was it last week or the week before that we tried this? I reckon it was the week before, wasn't it?
The week before, yes. She's asking which link. I'll just let her know.
Just tell her click the link with guest on the end. I've just sent her one to her personal profile and to her message to say click that link, and it should bring her into the show.
Yeah, and I've just sent her a similar message. So
yes, okay.
Yes, the phones are playing up and it's good fun.
Now someone's here who said, from My Time TV, who said my MacBook restarted by itself. And it's obviously one of the editors or live contributors on My Time TV. We have success. Kristy is in the house. I'll just bring her in and I'll drop out.
Thank you.
And let you girls get on with it.
Thank you.
Lovely. Hey. We have Kristy joining us. Hey, Kristy, thanks for persevering and getting that technology under control. It's lovely to see you here at last in the lounge room. How are you today?
I'm good, thanks, Linda. Thanks for having me. Yes, it was a little bit of struggle with technology, but we're all good now.
Yeah, I think, because we're actually pioneers in this particular field, we are doing all the bug work and paving a smoother way for the people who follow after us. So thank you very much for being a frontiers person with me. So I wanted to invite you in today to talk about something that really impacts in the quality of life for people, whether they work in a corporate environment or for themselves or anywhere in particular, where they reach a point in their life where stress becomes unmanageable and really starts to impact on the physiological body. And I know that adrenal fatigue is something that you're very familiar with. So can you give us a little bit of an intro about what adrenal fatigue actually is and how people can end up in that situation?
Yes, you just broke up a little bit there, Linda, but I'll start with what adrenal fatigue is. So our adrenal glands actually are little organs which sit on top of our kidneys, and they release hormones which control a lot of different factors in our body, everything from blood pressure.
Oh, she's dropped out. Okay, so
So we
I've lost connection with Kristy. I'm not sure what's happened there, whether it's a Wi-Fi issue or mobile data, or whether it's just Facebook being my best friend.
It could be any number of things, but the streaming, we're still broadcasting, and Facebook is still live streaming. So I suspect it is at her end, which is a bit unfortunate. And like you said before, Linda, we're pioneers in this. So just sending her a message to jump back in again. And I think the universe is challenging you. I would like to say that it's saying, well, how serious are you about this pioneering stuff?
Look how broad my shoulders are.
Yeah, and getting broader by the moment.
Come on, Facebook, bring it on. Bring it on.
Yeah, we've got it. And Kristy's come back. She's reloading. We will get there. This is so much fun. Okay, so I'm just waiting for her to. I can see she's in the lobby, and I'm just waiting for. There's a little grey screen there. I was going to say scream. It probably is both. And here's Roz from Bet's Holistic Therapy is with us. Thanks for joining us, Roz. And she's saying learning out loud again. So Kristy is just waiting for her. What might be happening is her broadband, or if she's on a mobile, if the signal strength isn't strong enough, it's quite possible that she's unable to live stream. So, but usually on your mobile device, it's not too bad. So I'm just wondering.
I've previously done it on my phone. You know, when I was down in Perth many months ago. Yes. That was mobile data.
And it was. I can see she's here. I'm going to add her to the broadcast, but I can see she may be able to speak, but we haven't got a video. So let's just see how this works. No, she's dropped out again. Oh dear. Okay, so is she going to try again? We're not going to give up on this. We're going to get points for being determined, aren't we? Learning out loud again. Yeah, absolutely. And Roz, yes, commenting as your business and signing off as yourself. That would be wonderful. So let's have a bit of a chat while we wait. Is she commenting to you in the chat at all, Linda?
She is giving me she's giving it another go. So we will see. Is there an alternative? Can Kristy phone in through Be Live? How would that work, or not really?
You actually do need to attach some other software to have people phoning in, and it's definitely something that we are going to be looking at in Code Breakers, because we do need plan B, C, D, E, F, G, H.
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
But so let's just have I guess I can hijack the conversation a little bit until Kristy can get back in, because I actually would love to. I know you're coming on. You're doing a program on on the prosperity game. And
Yeah.
can we just talk about that for a little bit? Because I don't know a lot about adrenal fatigue, and we will find out about it, but I know that you know about the prosperity game. So can we have perhaps a little chat about that?
Well, we could definitely have a chat about the prosperity game, but just in case there are people who are tuning in specifically to find out about adrenal fatigue, it is something to take quite seriously because, as Kristy was starting to explain at the beginning there, the adrenals are actually the little organs that sit on top of your kidneys, and they're part of your overall hormone system. So anytime your hormone system starts to come under fire and get out of balance, it does affect the whole of your body. So hopefully we'll get Kristy back in. I'm just going to see if she's having any luck. To talk about it in a lot more detail, because sometimes people will see the symptoms but ignore them and just, oh, nothing, she's not having any success. So
we've had her in once, so she should, let's just see.
Just says I'm waiting.
Again. All right. Okay, so asking her to try that link again. I've just sent her the guest link again, and we'll see how we go with that. So we'll get there. We will get there.
We'll get there. So yes, if you are hanging on to hear about adrenal fatigue, we will get Kristy in. Let's be positive, everybody, positive vibes. We will have Kristy in here because it is really important, and it's one of those insidious things that people just ignore, and it can lead to quite severe consequences. So, yeah, let's get Kristy in.
So I can see she's just popped in and then she's dropped out again. So this is it looks like it's something on her end that's actually not working or not gelling properly. So what I'm thinking what we could do is, she can keep trying, and perhaps we can try again another day. But in the meantime, have a bit of a chat about about some of the impacts, if we want to continue the conversation about the adrenal glands, because you would know about some of the impact that actually has on people, and she's obviously got the expertise, but I just love a challenge. But so what would be some of the symptoms?
I think, the most obvious one is fatigue. Fatigue is a big one. Now, let me just really clarify here that this is not my area of expertise. I actually have a bodywork background, so I've seen the results of adrenal fatigue in how it shows up in the body and what clients have told me they've experienced, and what I've also experienced myself. So, often there's this, waking up in the morning is really, really, really difficult. You're so tired, you can barely drag yourself out of bed. You feel like you've got no energy to get through the day. And then when it's dinner time, things it's almost like you get your second wind, so that when it's time to come back into bedtime, you can't drop off to sleep, or you can't stay asleep. It's because the hormone system is actually out of whack. And here we go. Kristy can actually fill in the blanks with the technical issues. Hello, gorgeous. Thank you so much.
So here's to take 32. Kristy, I'm going to drop out. I'll let you two continue the conversation, and I'll be asking questions from the background.
Hi there. Thank you so much for persevering with that link. Well done. You're experiencing some of my Facebook angst, I'm sorry to say.
So where were we up to, Linda?
So we're up to, you were going to give us a quick overview of what adrenal fatigue actually is.
Okay, so adrenal fatigue involves our nervous system response, and it's the hypothalamic pituitary and adrenal axis, which is affected the most. And that is also send messages from our brain basically down the spinal cord and through chemicals in our body to our adrenal glands. And then they respond with different hormones. And when we have been persistently overworked, shall I say, run down, we can, and it's persistency, so it's not just the one-off type situation. We can get signs and symptoms of adrenal fatigue, and this can be our severe afternoon or evening fatigue, coupled with muscle fatigue and weakness, aches and pains in general, a restless mind, insomnia, feeling a little bit all over the place emotionally as well. And also we might find we talk really fast or even have a tendency to perfectionism. So everything has to be just right, which maybe a lot of people actually fit this when you first think about it. But there's a lot of things that different that come into play regarding it.
Okay. So just for instance, I was also talking a little bit before you came on about my experience with adrenal fatigue was finding it very, very difficult to actually get out of bed in the morning, and then, being fatigued all day, and then kind of like come dinner time, bedtime, start to almost like I got my second wind and was wide awake. And then that insomnia thing would kick in where I wouldn't be able to go to sleep, or I wouldn't be able to stay asleep, and the cycle just seemed to continue on. And I know for me, I was a very big caffeine junkie to get me through the day, which is probably one of the worst things that you can do, isn't it?
Yes, it definitely is, Linda. So there's various stages of adrenal fatigue. So initially we have this peak that at stage 1 we have a cortisol peak so we have a strong response to stress, and we'll be running on adrenaline. So you're under the pump, you feel like you're achieving so much, you're getting all the, doing everything you want to do. And that's the beginning stages where you're just in overdrive really and can't switch off. And then you get into stages 2 and 3, and then even final failure, even if you like to say, even though it's not technically a word of adrenal failure, or it's adrenal exhaustion. So then as we progress, then those other signs and symptoms come in. And thing with what you were describing about peaking at nighttime and not being able to sleep is your cortisol level is peaking basically in the evening, when particularly between 3 and 4 in the evening, and instead of being at 3 or 4 in the afternoon when we should be rejuvenated and get going for the next 8 hours, or not 8 hours, but another 6 or 7 hours before we go to bed. So it's peaking around the wrong time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So what are some of the other signs and symptoms that people could maybe be aware of that, that obviously most of us go through periods of intense stress or pressure where we do work in that overdrive, but then we're able to, knock it back a gear and step back into our everyday way of operating. But what happens, how do you notice when you're not making that shift, when it starts to become that sustained, prolonged way of being? Is there
other health things start to kick in, Linda. So you may not be able to shift any weight and things, so it may actually start to affect your thyroid, and then you may be getting symptoms of hypothyroidism, which is being triggered by stress response, not necessarily an autoimmune disease. Hypothyroidism. So you may be experiencing cold hands and feet, not being able to shift that weight. You can also get an excessive dry throat, loss of hair. You mentally can drop in mental fatigue, like being more depressed and feeling a foggy head, things like that too. So those sort of symptoms can happen. Or you may also be more susceptible when we're under the pump and under load to immune system problems too, which I do see a lot of too. So you're consistently getting recurrent colds and flus so easily and just not recovering properly.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, a lot of that sounds familiar to me because I did actually go through a period of adrenal fatigue myself many years ago, and it seems to be one of those things that as you become more aware as you go through your life, you become more aware of what you're doing to yourself. So you told us some of the signs and symptoms. What can you actually do if some of these signs and symptoms are triggering in the people who are listening a thought that, oh, maybe this sounds very much like where I'm at the moment? What sort of things can they do for themselves?
Yeah, to help themselves is the most important thing, and especially being mindful of that maybe they're experiencing this at the moment. The first thing, of course, is to slow down. And, that is easier said than done. But for me, as a woman who has her own business as well, and I guess I don't have the extra strain of running after children at the moment, so that's not a problem. But for me, making sure meals are prepped are a big thing so that I know I'm going to be eating properly. So I generally like to batch cook at least once a week, a meal that we'll eat that night, and then I can put extras in the freezer. So I know that if I'm going to be working late or if I really can't be bothered and I'm too fatigued to cook, I can at least have a home-cooked meal that I know is really good for me in the freezer. Besides that, there's a lot of things besides slowing down and learning. Stop exercising. If you're in that stage of actually adrenaline pumping and you're way over the top, especially then, you don't want to exercise at all. I see a lot of people in that height of adrenals and they are going, but it makes me feel better. I feel more energized. I'm like, but you actually need to slow down. So I want to quit going to the gym. I want you to drop that back, going for a walk instead, doing some yoga or Tai Chi. That is even great for those who are in that stage of the fatigue, because as much as you need to rest, even doing something once or twice a week to actually get you outside, get that motivation coming, get that oxygen, fresh air into your body, then it's going to get you moving again quickly too.
Yeah,
and definitely decrease that coffee.
Yeah, so now what is it in particular with coffee that makes it the worst nightmare for a person with adrenal fatigue?
So it's a stimulant. It's the same with alcohol as well. They're stimulants. So, they are stimulating more neurons in the body to be awake and aware, and your nervous system to become alive and be hardwired again. So we actually need to take a step back from that. So maybe introducing some herbal teas into the equation. So some of your relaxing teas, or especially at bedtime, some sleep time, dream time teas of the like, to help slow down the body, but also during the day as well. I do my own teas, and I do have some great blends to support adrenal glands and nervous system as well. So there are some great choices out there, and that also increases our water intake with herbal teas.
Lovely. And, your water intake, is that an important factor with adrenal fatigue too?
Yes, definitely. Yeah. It's part of our water is needed not only to hydrate the body, but it's to do with blood pressure as well. So, there's a lot of people that actually have lower blood pressure as with adrenal fatigue. So boosting that up with water as well, because it works in conjunction with our aldosterone produced from the adrenal glands, and also with the kidneys to help with blood pressure.
Okay, fantastic. And there's a question that's just come through. Ross wants to know if it can be diagnosed through blood testing. So a question that's come through.
Yeah. So with blood testing, the normal GP can test things like your cortisol level, which they can do in the pathology lab. You just need to make sure you get an early morning test before, preferably like 8 o'clock at the latest type thing, to see what your level's sitting at that time of day. And obviously if you're sitting low and fatigued, then that is going to show. Or if you're actually peaking, extreme off the charts, then that's definitely going to show as well. For myself, I do salivary hormone testing. And this is basically done in the comfort of your own home. And you get these little tiny tubes that you spit into, basically, to bring up the saliva, and you test those throughout the day. So I like to, for adrenal fatigue in particular, I like to look at all the, especially for women, female hormones, and DHEAS, which is also impacted with adrenal fatigue. So as well as the cortisols 4 times during the day. So you'll do one in the morning, one in the lunchtime, one in the afternoon, and one in the middle of the night as well. So then we can get see the peaks and troughs of what's happening.
Yeah, that sounds like that would actually give you a really nice, clear picture of what's going on with that particular person,
Yes,
rather than a blood test in the morning to show whether cortisol's low or high. Yeah. Okay, so a couple of other questions have come through. Adair's asking, how long does it take to recover from adrenal fatigue?
Yeah, for me, it was a few months. So I see you had my little blurb up there saying that I had suffered adrenal fatigue many moons ago now. But and even in my clinic, as I always say to my clients, it needs to be 3 to 4 months at least of support. So for me, I give them their lifestyle tips, some food choices, food nutrients to boost and things like that to support their adrenal glands. And then I use herbal tonics and teas and nutrients as well, because they're already running on empty, basically, so they need that extra boost. And I also then refer to massage therapists or any other healing modalities, as well as their yoga or Tai Chi to support them.
Yeah, perfect. And also we've got both Roz and Adair asking where you get the salivary test kits from.
You can.
For that, would they?
Sorry, what's the last bit?
I was just saying, would they have to see a naturopath to be able to do those tests?
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a couple of different laboratories that do run them in Australia. They're part of the functional medicine panels, and you do need to see a naturopath or a integrated doctor or the like to actually get them, because I send the results to them and they'll interpret them for you.
Okay, fantastic. That's that question. So recovery from adrenal fatigue, I guess it depends on how far down the road you are with it and how committed you are to making those lifestyle changes, because a lot of it does boil down to lifestyle change, doesn't it? And
yes.
And to a certain extent, mindset about how you're approaching your task. Yeah. Okay. So what happens if you don't do anything about it? What happens if you just continue working in hyperdrive?
If you're working in overdrive all the time. So if you don't do anything about it, like the first stages is in that overdrive, and then you'll end up being in the actual zone where you've got nothing left to give. So your cortisol level is actually decreased completely. Your female or male hormones have actually dropped as well as your DHEA. When I actually was diagnosed with adrenal fatigue, the naturopath looked at my hormone levels and she said I was like a 60-year-old woman. I was early 30s. So she said, if I hadn't seen you sitting in front of me, I wouldn't have believed that these were your results. So I was really in that stage 3, 4 of being that depleted. I couldn't even make a flight of stairs. So I guess for me, I was lucky enough that I was studying naturopathy, that I was trying to support myself, but I really wasn't, because I wasn't giving myself any time out. Before I was diagnosed, I was probably, from memory, boosting my immune system. It was winter down in Perth. I would have been doing that naturally anyway. So I wasn't succumbing to those colds and flus, which can happen, but I definitely just was totally fatigued and aches and pains and unexplainable. And no blood test was showing up any other immune problems like Ross River or glandular fever or anything like that. So it was something else. And the doctors don't generally look at it as being a medical condition. So that's where an integrated or naturopath can actually help you.
Okay, fair enough. And another question that's come through is from Adair. Do you have to ask specifically for this test if you go to a GP? I'm assuming she's talking about the saliva test. And would they do this as part of normal blood testing for general health? I think you just answered that question.
Yeah, look, if you presented to your doctor with fatigue and aches and pains and things like that, they generally tend to go down those blood tests, relating to, like I just said, Epstein-Barr virus, Ross River, glandular fever, those sort of things. They look at a full blood count, maybe your iron studies if you're lucky, and hopefully I would think they would do your thyroid panel as well, just to make sure that was actually okay. But they don't necessarily do a cortisol test, and it is just called a cortisol test, so you can request it. If one thing with requesting tests, if the doctor doesn't believe that it is a valid or warranted test, then you can still request the test. You will just need to pay for the blood test. So that's even with me coming to me, if I do bloods, if I can't get a doctor referred to do those bloods for you, then you'll need to pay for those. They're not covered by Medicare. Only things that are the doctor sees suited are going to be covered by Medicare. So I hope that answers your question, Adair.
Yeah, sure. And, just off the top of your head, do you know how much it costs to get a blood test? I've never
Yes,
done it.
I do.
Yeah.
I've got my sheet here. So where I'm looking at cortisol. Each test is individual. So the cortisol's like 55, and then you've got handling fees on top of those. But for thyroid panels and things, they're like $80. Iron studies are the same. So it's all individual. Iron studies are actually cheaper, only $38. And to be honest, I see a lot of people just getting a normal full blood count from the doctor, and they bring their results in, and they can often just be low in iron, and they haven't even been tested for iron deficiency. So that can be quite a common thing that could be going on as well. So it may not be adrenal fatigue. If you've got low iron, you can have a poor immune system as well. So it pays to sometimes do some testing.
So is there any little clue that could tip you off, the difference between maybe low iron and adrenal fatigue? Are they both too similar and you really need bloods to work that out?
No, you don't need to have bloods, but if I generally don't give anyone iron supplements without seeing a blood test, so I wouldn't do that. But knowing the difference between iron deficiency and adrenal fatigue, I personally take a big history on what's impacting on their life as well. So, their stress levels, I rank their stress levels, what's going on at home, what's going on at work, what's going on within the family. Are they an over-anxious person? It's not just taking a blood test. It's looking at the whole person. So we're actually looking at their diet as well, what they're eating, what fuel they're putting into their own bodies. If they aren't eating a lot of iron-rich foods, and that's not just about meats, then we look at, maybe it is iron deficiency, and then I'll suggest you go and get a test.
Okay, fantastic. So just generally, what sort of nutrition helps support someone who is managing adrenal fatigue?
To boost their energy and things like that as well, for the adrenal support you're talking about? Yeah. So having some good fuel in your body, using complex carbohydrates. Now, I'm not a one diet person for anybody, and complex carbohydrates can get a bad rap about everything when people just talk about grains, but it's also about vegetables and stuff as well that are going to be giving you carbohydrates too, like sweet potatoes. So we look at, making whole foods part of your diet, not packaged foods, so increasing all those veggies, greens as much as possible, mushrooms, some good fats in their diet to support the nervous system as well and reduce inflammation and stress. And it also helps with hormonal balancing as well. So things like your avocado, your nuts and seeds, chia seeds are fantastic. They have protein as well as good essential fatty acids, calcium, magnesium, a whole bunch of nutrients. So great protein throughout their day is also really important to make sure we actually have enough energy throughout our day. So protein not only from meats if you eat meat, but your eggs and cheeses or dairy if you do. If you don't, your quinoa is also another great source besides protein. Avocado and nuts and seeds are also good. I just get people to try and eat as much live food or less out of a packet than they can. And doing things like soups or stews and things like that this time of year can also be really grounding and warming for the soul as well.
Yeah, fantastic. And easy on the stomach to absorb.
Yeah.
Yum. Okay.
Yes, easy to go.
Yeah. I'm just looking at my list of questions. I think we've gone through all the questions that I personally had for you today. I'm just wondering if there are any long-term implications for not managing adrenal fatigue.
So if people are prone to being that overworked person, especially if you are doing your own business or if you're just a manager of some degree or even the manager of the household. So basically, I guess the biggest thing is keeping yourself in check. So you are mindful of what you're actually doing, keeping time for yourself, even if it's only half an hour once a week, but making a ritual. Doing your herbal tea ritual is fantastic too. I love that. Pausing, taking time out for you and thinking about why you're doing it and how it's going to benefit you too. When you're preparing food, the same thing. It's about nourishment.
Yeah.
Making sure that you're exercising regularly to ensure that everything, your mind and body are in good balance. And same with, we were talking about stimulants before as well, your caffeine load and your alcohol intake, making sure it's in balance, not excessive. I know we all can do that at certain times of the year, go excessive one way or the other, but bringing that back into balance is really important. Because if we don't, and if you are looking at trying to, especially women trying to conceive, it really does impact on fertility. It's stress and adrenal fatigue will disrupt your hormones. You can see with a lot of women it affects their menstrual cycle just by having less of a or irregular period. So it really does impact. So looking after yourself is number one.
Fantastic. Well, Kristy, I'm so glad that we finally got technology working and that we've been able to have this conversation. I think it's a very valuable thing for people to learn about, to be aware of adrenal fatigue and the trap that you can fall into if you're, one of those high performance people. We have actually come to the end of our session. So do you have any last words that you'd like to share, or have you got any special offers coming up that you'd like to let people know about? Or if people just want to get in touch with you, what's the best thing for them to do?
I have got a couple of workshops in the pipeline, but they're not going to be out for a couple of months. So if you would like to do some hormonal testing or have a consult, then yes, I'd love to see you and help you along your journey. It's Kristy at everlastinghealth.com.au, or you can visit my Facebook or website, Everlasting Health. So, yeah, I'd love to help where I can.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your time today. And thank you for persevering with the link for Be Live TV. We finally got it connected. Fantastic. So I look forward to catching up with you again in real life. Is that IRL, I think Adair calls it? Thanks again, Kristy.
Great. Thank you so much, Linda, for having me. Thanks a lot.
That's a pleasure. Okay, and I'm not sure where our producer is. Oh, there she is. Thanks everybody for tuning into the Lounge Room chat today. I'm Linda Emslie from Lovlali. It's been an absolute honour to finally have Kristy in the lounge room with me and to take on some questions from people tuning in live. Thank you so much for your company today. If you are catching the replay later and you have questions that weren't answered by this broadcast, do please pop them in the comments below. Either myself or Kristy will come back through and get those questions answered for you. I will also pop in the description above the video the link for you to connect with Kristy if you have questions that you'd like to direct specifically to her personally. So I'm Linda Emslie from Lovlali, and as you may have gathered from the beginning of my talk, I'm not a naturopath, but I am a healer and a bodywork person, and I also work with women who are going through life's transitions one way or another. So if you'd like to connect with me, I'd be happy to have a chat with you too. So thanks again, and thank you to Adair for hosting the show for us today. I look forward to tuning into the next lot.